Hi, I'm Melissa Bill, and welcome to the Business Roundup, where we meet the movers and shakers in the business industries. Today, joining me is Dr. Rudy Ramos. He is a DDS and the owner at Rudy Ramos D.D.S. and Associates in Houston. Thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to attending this show for a while, so thank you so much for setting this up.
No, thank you for being here. And how long have you been a dentist? Just out of curiosity.
I have been practicing for 35 years, and hard to believe, when I look back, it's like I'm licensing all these young dentists coming out of school, and I said, I can't believe all these young dentists coming out and, 27, 28 years old. It's hard to look back, I was there.
I know you've probably seen a lot of changes during that time period.
Yes. So the way I got involved with this in 2009, Governor Rick Perry appointed me the Texas State Board of Dental Examiners, and I served under Governor Perry. And then in 2012, Governor Perry appointed me to the president of the state board, and I served under Governor Perry and Governor Abbott through 2016. So it was truly an honor for me to serve both governors and the state of Texas. So dentistry and serving the profession has always been a passion for me.
And that's amazing. Now, have you been mainly in Houston, the Houston area?
Always, yes. I graduated from dental school in 1990, and I immediately set up practice here in Houston. So been loving it ever since. So I'm not anywhere close to retirement, so I'm gonna keep enjoying what I do.
Right, it keeps helping to shape the industry as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
I know today we're going to talk about a topic that is kind of front and center right now. Well, why don't we go over what are like the current dental licensing process? Like, what do they have to go through at this point to become a dentist in Texas?
To be licensed in the state of Texas, you have to graduate from an accredited dental school, the Commission on Dental Accreditation. You graduate with either a DDS degree or a DMD degree. So that's 4 years of dental school post undergrad. Then they take a written exam, and that is called the national boards, part one and two, but they're changing the structure of the national boards. But historically, you pass the written exam of national boards. Then you pass a clinical exam, which includes a hand skill psychomotor exam. So, again, this is not something that we require as individual dentists, this is state law. So state law says you must have all of these credentials before the state of Texas grants you a license to practice. So that is part of statute. We can't change that. That's written law.
And this is in place to keep people safe, obviously, to make sure that the public is safe.
Absolutely. And like I said, this has been standard across all states for many, many years. No other state board ever wants to see this changed because protection is the goal of all state boards, right? That's what we're there for. Protect the
Right.
public. Yes.
And now I know Texas now the hands-on component, which is what we're going to talk about. Why is that so critical to the public safety?
Well, for one, to do a hand skill assessment, these new dentists coming out are going to be, this is precise, exact dental treatment. Everything we do, whether it be fillings, root canals, extractions, crowns, we're talking measurements of half a millimeter, a millimeter. So these are critical measurements, and we have to assess the hand skill component of all these new dentists coming into practice. We want our patients, we want patients to be safe. And the state has to assure, yes, this is a qualified practitioner ready to treat you.
And now there's some legislation that is coming up, and it's the HB 1803.
That is correct.
Okay. Now, how would that impact dental care in Texas if that was approved?
Well, unfortunately, what this House bill wants to do is do away with the hand skill clinical assessment. They say, you know what, if they pass the written exam, that's good enough. No other industry would ever allow such a thing. So how this House bill came to fruition is just, in my opinion, unethical way to treat the citizens of Texas.
And I know this is something that, just like in it's a medical industry, if you do something wrong, you can have like severe consequences to someone's health. I mean, there's things that can go wrong just like in any other, like a doctor or any of those types of things.
That's right. That's why it's important for these licensing boards that go, across the country. We want to make sure that the new dentist is capable of performing these procedures. Here is a family member going to a new dentist, and now you're going to have question, did he pass a clinical exam? Is he clinically ready to treat my family? That's the big question. Is now never has it been questioned, oh, did you pass a licensing exam? That was never asked to me before. So all these new dentists coming into the market, now it's going to raise question, did you pass a clinical exam? How unfair is that?
When
And
everybody, yeah, had to go through it.
so the thing with dentistry, like I said, I've been doing this 35 years. I've had patients of record for 35 years. And dentistry, just like any other medical field, it's a trust issue. Trust is everything to build a practice. So, if you don't have step one with a big question mark, did you pass a clinical exam? You'll never get that. That'll always hinder you.
And now, is this something that where is it in the process, the legislation?
So both House Bill 1799, I believe it was the first one that was the AADB compact, and then House Bill 1803. These were both introduced legislative session in January. State Representative Sam Harless advocated for House Bill 1803. So therefore, the AADB compact didn't come forward. So it's House Bill 1803, and it's now in calendars committee. So there's going to be a vote on this tomorrow or Thursday. So hopefully this bill doesn't proceed. I have to give credit to the Texas Dental Association for advocating against this. Why would we lessen the requirements to get a license in the state of Texas? I mean, this bill is being pushed aggressively by private equity firms because they want to be able to move dentists from one end of the country to the other without any hindrance. So it just makes the pathway for them easier to move their employees from state to state.
So it's just kind of to make like, and these are like bigger type of, not corporations, but bigger, like where you have like a, not a franchise, but you have like multiple units type of
Well,
thing.
actually, it is corporate,
Is it
right?
corporate?
Yeah, these are private equity firms. It's hard to believe, but private equity in healthcare is a multi-billion dollar industry. Right? So they're looking at bottom line to cut cost, and you have to pay for a license for every dentist that comes into the state of Texas. So, think about it. If you have your employee in, Iowa and they want to come to Texas, they have to pay for that Texas license. But if they get this compact pushed, they're at liberty to move their employees throughout all the states that say yes to this CSG compact. So if it happens, Texas will be the first major state, large state to adopt this CSG compact. CSG compact didn't even come up for discussion in Florida or California, right? You would have figured California would have gone first, but no, they came to Texas. So it's a huge market in Texas. I mean, the population of Texas grows by 500,000 people every year. So Texas does not need to be giving away licensure for free. People pay whatever it takes to come to the state. So it doesn't make economic sense for the taxpayer have to pay for the CSG compact because the individual practitioner that comes to Texas, the employer is not paying for the license. The taxpayer is paying for the license for this dentist. To be in the compact, Texas has to pay a fee to be part of the compact. And what's interesting, we don't even know what that fee is.
Wow.
Yeah, the CST compact has barely got, they just found their home base, so I think it's going to be headquartered in Kansas. So the state of Texas will then appoint a commissioner to the CST compact. So again, like I said, that's in Kansas. So every state that joins the compact will have a representative in the compact, but it's not going to be your state dental board. Your state dental board's hands will be tied because you're giving governance to the CSG commissioners. So again, they just barely established their headquarters in Kansas. They don't know the rules of the game yet. There's only a handful of states that said yes to the compact. But again, the big question mark, what's it going to cost each state? Nobody knows. So let's say you join the compact. Once you commit to joining the compact, there's no 90-day exit strategy. You stay in this compact for a minimum of 180 days. So you're paying the membership dues every month for 180 days. And guess what? This is going to be defended in Washington, D.C. So because it was initially established as a government, pseudo government entity. So it's going to be in the U.S. District Court to try to get out of the compact. So why bother joining? I mean, Texas actually doesn't even need a compact. You know, Texas has 4 dental schools. We have UT Houston, UT San Antonio, Texas A&M Dallas, and recently Texas Tech El Paso. Texas graduates about 400 dentists a year. Plus, you got to look at the other 500 that are applying for licensure every year. So the state board's going to be very busy here this summer, granting all these new licensees that have done it the right way by full licensure examination.
And that makes it wrong for them too. It's not really fair because they went through all this process and they
They
live in.
went through the whole rigor of licensure. And what's interesting in Texas dentists, they don't leave the state, right? It's not like CSG or the Texas is going to benefit by having licensees go to another state. Very few actually do that unless they're going for residency or spousal areas that they go have to leave the state. But most dentists that graduate from here stay here.
And that's now, what is the public's opinion of this type of thing? Now, I know it said, I think you had said that a recent survey shows that, is it 82% of them want the dentist to pass these hands-on tests?
Absolutely. 82% of polls show that, you know, the public wants to have a clinically licensed dentist to have passed all these standards. You know what? Under law, like I said, lawyers would never allow this to happen. I mean, that's state bar. You think the state bar is going to bend any corners to allow an attorney? Hey, you just need to pass the multiple choice exam. You don't have to take the essay and you granted a JD. I don't think so. A professional engineer graduating from engineering school and not have to take the PE exam, that'll never happen. So I don't know why we would even entertain giving a licensure exam with no clinical hand skill assessment for the safety of the public. I mean, this is healthcare. You know, you don't bend corners and dilute the licensure requirements. I mean, this is all about public protection.
I mean, and even like you go into even like the beauty industry, just for example, licensing and stuff like that. You have to do. I'm just, and it's nowhere near as complicated, but you have to have your time of working on people, the public, with chemicals and things like that to assure for safety.
Absolutely. And that's the standard across every industry. You know, you have to have a licensed electrician, a licensed plumber, all of this to sign these documents, again, to make sure everything is safe before residents move in or clients move into a building. There's all these standards that exist, and this is the first time I've heard of diluting the value of licensure.
And now, how would this like affect if it is passed? How would it affect like everyday Texans when they're going to go to a dentist? I mean, you're basically, is it just going to make it, it's going to be hard for you to tell. You won't be able to tell if you go to the office if they have completed this, basically, the hands
Right.
on.
Right. And this is going to be not so much for people in my age bracket, But I'm talking new dentist wanting to establish a practice, right? This is going to be for all the new graduates, right? Then comes the big question. I wonder if this guy passed the clinical licensure exam. And that's who you're ultimately going to end up hurting as far as the profession is the young dentist wanting to get established. And of course, the public that doesn't know that the dentist treating them didn't pass a rigorous clinical hand skill assessment. So anyway, it's just going to raise a lot of questions as far as new dentists trying to build a practice
And safety, safe.
and safety and a safety issue.
And now, if people want more information, what would be the best way? Where would they go for that?
Well, we're going to know. Like I said, this bill will be heard in the House tomorrow or Thursday. And this is the House part of it. Then it'll go to the Senate. So by the end of May, we'll know where all these bills stand. I want to say May 28th is the hard deadline to see which bills are going to be passed. So, fingers crossed, make calls to your state representatives, say, hey, please don't support this bill of diluting clinical licensure in the state of Texas. This is about protecting young people. I mean, if you have a child, you're not going to take your child to a new young dentist and you don't know if he's passed a clinical hand skill assessment, right? Like I said, all these are going to raise question and question and question. So again, hopefully this bill doesn't proceed. But again, this is strongly advocated by private equity. One of the main things they're pulling on the heartstrings is access to care in rural areas. But again, this is a multi-billion-dollar entity. So if they wanted to be serving the underserved, they would have been there already. I mean, if you're a multi-billion-dollar entity, what's holding you back from being there now? Right? It doesn't have to be this compact. You had access to build up all these clinics in these rural areas if you wanted to a long time ago. But private equity is all about churning over the dollar because what happens is they'll pull all these practices together, do a roll up, and then sell them off to the next private equity. So that's what's going on, not only in Texas. This is a national deal with the corporations that own all these dental practices, veterinary practices, medical practices. So this is nothing new. It's just, again, it's fine. I believe that the new practice models will succeed, but I just am very disappointed that we're hearing advocacy of dilution of clinical licensure. So, the medical board would never tolerate something like this. You don't dilute licensure in healthcare.
Yeah, well, hopefully people get to calling and kind of get involved. I think a lot of times they don't think that people don't know these things are going through, or they're even being discussed.
And not only the public, but there's a lot of dentists that have been in practice, and a lot of them don't even know about this legislative action items that's coming forward in the House. Because if it doesn't affect you personally, you have no idea. I do it because of passion for my profession, so I like to stay on top of all this. But your clinician that's already been established for 20 plus years, they have no idea what's going on in the Capitol right now. And like I said, this is in every state right now. Other than, so I don't know how they did it, but credit to Florida and California for holding these corporate entities at bay and pushing this CSG compact.
Yeah, I know that's surprising too. California usually, like you were saying, is the first to kind of move forward on those types of things. So
Yeah, so anyway, like I said, hopefully this doesn't go anywhere and we have some reasonable House and Senate members that put an end to this bill. So again, please, I encourage people to make calls to their state reps, state senators to not dilute the quality of healthcare in the state of Texas. There's no need for it. I mean, look, we have plenty of medical schools, plenty of dental schools. The state of Texas spent a lot of money on keeping these schools highly functional, best technology, best equipment, and there's no reason to dilute the standard.
I would keep it up to a standard that's going to protect the public for sure.
Hmm
Well, I appreciate you joining us today, and I'm going to get it out as we'll get the word out as much as we can, and hopefully, do you have social media? Anything in social media that people can check stuff out or website?
But I will have some entities. The Texas Dental Association will probably be putting some stuff out there.
Okay.
So hopefully the word gets out. And like I said, there's no real reason other than dollar to really push this CSG compact. Again, if it emulated the medical board compact, the state board will still stay in control. But again, this is a commission established that the state board's hands are tied when it comes to public protection under the CSG compact.
That's going to be, yeah, definitely not a good thing because then there's no recourse.
Right? Because first thing people do is they go to their state board to issue a complaint. So sorry, that's not one of our licensees. That dentist is here under a privilege of the compact. You're gonna have to complain to Kansas, right? So again, it's unfortunate, and like I said, let's hope it doesn't go anywhere. Anyway, please make calls to your state reps, your state senators, and not let this bill go anywhere.
Well, thank you, Dr. Ramos,
No,
for joining us today. Really appreciate it. And
thank
hopefully,
you, Melissa.
hi, thank you for joining us for another episode of the Business Roundup. If you haven't already, please subscribe or follow us on Instagram or YouTube. Also, feel free to leave comments below on topics you'd like us to cover. Until next time, I'm Melissa Bell.